I'm Sam.
And I'm Andrew.
And we're MB Board Gaming, and today we are reviewing Trekking Through History, which is published by Underdog Games. Plays in about 30 to 60 minutes, 2 to 4 players, and ages 10 and up. So Andrew is going to show us how to play, and then we'll be back for our final thoughts.
All right, so how to play Trekking Through History. So the way this game is going to work is that it is going to be 3 rounds, and then it'll be the end of the game, and whoever has the most points at the end of the third day is going to win. Okay, each round is a day, so the game is played over 3 days. There is a specific deck for each day, so these brown cards here are day 1. You have a separate deck of day 2, these red ones, and then for day 3, you're going to have this blue deck of cards, all with different years and events on them. Okay, and what you're going to be doing, what you're trying to do, is earning victory points. And the way you're going to be doing that is by creating treks of time in chronological order, right? So you're going to be trying to piece these different cards together to create a trek. And depending on how large your trek is going to be, and you can have multiple treks, you are going to score points for them at the end of the game. So what's nice is the game does come with a little breakdown for each deck and tells you what cards are in each of those decks. So it kind of gives you an idea of, okay, if I take, this 1809 card on day 1, chances are I'm not going to go very far with that trek because there's only 4 cards in the entire deck that are after 1809. So you might want to pick something more like 500 BC because you're going to have a lot more cards that can kind of fit into that timeline of yours. Okay, so you're going to be taking cards either from one of these 6 locations, so the 5 here that give you a location bonus, and then the top of the deck is available. However, you do not get a bonus there. Or you can take an ancestor card, which I'll talk about in a second. Okay, everybody is also going to start with an itinerary. You usually get dealt a hand of these, and then you can either take one of those randomly or choose one that you want to use. And they are going to provide you with ways to score victory points and potentially get more time crystals, which I'll talk about here in a second. Okay, and so these are going to kind of maybe persuade you to go for a specific type of experience token. For example, this one here that I have has a lot more spaces for red than it does green. So I might want to focus on maybe taking more red experience tokens because I can get some more victory points. Whereas I want to be cautious I don't take too many green because I only have spots for 2. And if I take more than 2, then the extra will be lost. Okay, so I don't want to be wasting turns on getting experience tokens that I can't really use to my benefit. All right, whereas the one that maybe Samantha has, she doesn't have as many spaces for red. She might be focusing more on blue. And so these are going to kind of potentially sway what you're taking during each round. And these are going to switch. So this is only for day 1. At the end of this day, the second day, I'll get a whole new itinerary and then a whole new one for the third day. Okay, so that's how you're going to be scoring points during the rounds. Is going to be through your itinerary. You're also going to be managing your time. So each of these cards has a cost in time as you're moving around this rondel. And so once you go all the way around, that's going to mark the end of the day. And the way that turn order works is whoever is furthest. So, for example, let's say, okay, it's first turn of the game. I go first. I'm going to drink hot chocolate with the Mayans, okay? So, in order for me to take this card, I have to spend 4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could spend a time crystal to reduce it to 3. However, and I can spend multiple of these, so long as I don't reduce it to 0. I have to spend at least 1 time when taking the cards, okay? So they can't take anything for free. So let's say I keep my time crystal, I spend the 4, I'm going to take this card and I'm going to gain the experience. So I get 1 red, 1 yellow, and 1 wild. So red, yellow, wild. Red obviously will go in the red column, yellow in the wild column, and the wild one I can put anywhere. So I can put it again in the red, I could put it blue, I could start green, however I want to do it. I might just for sake, I'll put it with the blue. Okay, so I spend my time, I gain my tokens, and then we will fill in that spot. Okay, so then let's say it is Samantha's turn, and she is going to take, oh, how about this one here? She is going to do the Imagine a Cave of Shadows with Play-Doh. And so she is going to spend 2 time, 1, 2, and she will get two red experience tokens there. All right, it's the oldest one. It's a great one to start with her trek. There you go. And so now the next turn would be Samantha's as well, because she is the furthest back. So because she is the furthest back, she will continue to take turns until she is ahead of me. All right, even if her little pocket watch here is on top, whoever is on top gets to go first, so they're considered further back. So she would be able to take multiple turns before I could potentially take my next turn. Now, let's say I don't like any of these cards here. When it eventually comes back to my turn, I can take an Ancestor card. Okay, and what this does is I can still add it to my trek. I still pay the time. I still get the wild token, right? But essentially, this is going to copy the year that was played prior to it. And thematically, what this is saying is, hey, while I was drinking hot chocolate with the Mayans, I then also went and visited my ancestor from that time, okay? And so that is what this is just going to copy. Maybe nothing fits into your trek and you're trying to wait for something, and it does count towards it. You don't want to close it, however you want to do it. That's what you're going to be doing there with your ancestor, okay? Now, if you do take a card that is out of your time, so let's say I had taken this one at some point, and let's say my next turn, I was going to go ahead and take a card that was before 1809. So I took this, who cares? Let's just say we took this one, right? I traveled the Silk Road with Marco Polo. So because this card does not line up with this, it's not in chronological order, I have to collapse this trek and put it off to the side, all right? So at the end of the game, because I have 3 cards in this trek, it'll only generate me 2 points, okay? But then I can start a whole nother trek and start from that time on. So that's what you're going to be doing on your turn. You're going to be getting these cards, building up these treks, trying to collect the right experience tokens to get potentially more crystals, to earn victory points, and you're going to be managing your time. And this is also going to be important because as you're coming around, if you manage to finish at 12 o'clock, at the 12 exactly, you will get a punctuality bonus. Now, if I was here, I can still take a card that's 3, right? I can still take a cost 3 card, and I would just automatically end there. So it's not like I can't take it because I only have 1 hour of time, but I would just automatically stop there, and I would forego that opportunity to get those 3 punctuality points there. Okay, so you do have an opportunity to get points there as well. You just have to end exactly on the 12. All right. At the end of the game, you're going to total up your points that you've gotten from your itinerary boards that you're keeping track of from day to day. You're also going to be getting points from your treks, like I discussed earlier. And for every time crystal that you have that's not spent, these are also going to be worth 1 point. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is going to win. So hopefully that gives you a general idea of how to play the game. It's pretty straightforward, but has some depth in there with managing what experience tokens do I want to get. I want to manage my time as well as building up my trek. Okay, so let's go ahead and take it back up top and give you guys our final thoughts.
All right, Andrew, thank you for teaching us how to play.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you start and tell us what are your positives about this game?
Well, I'll say this first off before I jump into my positives, is that this was one that I saw on Kickstarter, didn't back, because I wasn't necessarily a big fan of trekking national parks or trekking the world. And so seeing Trekking Through History, I was like, another trekking game, not something I really wanted to purchase because of the association with the other games. I was very relieved that this is nothing like those other games.
No.
And I think the title kind of might throw some people off if they were like me. Like, you might just glance over, but like, yes, it's a beautiful game. It has really nice art by Eric Hibbler. But I wasn't a big of the designer's previous games, which was Charlie Bink. And so it wasn't one that I was necessarily looking forward to. But then once I found out this was actually a very different game from the other trekking games, I was much more interested. I saw also some reviews, had a friend that had backed it actually, and they had actually really liked it and recommended it. So, so I jumped in. So I would say initially I was not wanting to get into this game because of that. And so I do think maybe the name might hinder it a little bit if people didn't like it, or if you did like it and you bought it thinking this might be something similar, you might be disappointed because it's not. But I get why it is named the way it is, right? It's the same designer, same publishers, and you are traveling through history. So I get that. But that was
I did a good job at getting your Valentine's gift then, right? Yeah,
yeah. After I had heard some reviews and I saw it, it was something I was actually interested in because I was like, oh, it's not the same game. It sounds interesting. I'll do that. I'll say positives. I do really like the artwork. I went and looked up the artist, which is Eric Hibbler, because I was like, oh, this looks really nice. What else has he done? And he's been more prolific in his art, I think, in the last like 3 or 4 years. He's done some pretty big projects, like My Father's Work was a big one. That's a gorgeous box cover. I haven't played the game. He's done Yukon Airways. He's done Terror Below with the Tremors theme.
Cool. Yeah.
So I really like his art, and if I see it on future games, it definitely catches your eye and makes you want to look more into the game. So definitely somebody that I think I'm going to be looking out for as far as art. Now, my positives, right? My positives are that I really do enjoy this game. It is one that I think has a nice mesh of mechanisms. So you have the little rondel where you're managing your time and knowing, hey, I need to be able to finish. If I want my punctuality bonus, I need to finish at that exact deadline at midnight or whatever, the 12. Kind of managing your time crystals to maybe lower the cost of some of the cards that you're getting. I like that give and take of with that rondel. I have always enjoyed that mechanic where it's whoever is behind goes. So it's like I could potentially take 2, 3, 4 turns, usually not 4 turns, but 2 or 3 turns before the next person goes if they take a really expensive card and spend a lot of time. So I do like that because yes, I might get, because usually with those high expense, you're getting a lot of those experience tokens, which are great, but I could probably get more experience tokens by taking some of the smaller ones, the cheaper ones that still fit into my trek. And so I've really enjoyed that. I do like the give and take of, ooh, I really want these experience tokens to fill out my itinerary board because they're going to give me more victory points. They're going to give me time crystals. But it might not, it might be too far of a jump in my timeline where it's like, it puts me in a position to where I might not score as much for this trek. Do I really want to start over? And, you know, because I'm going to be limited. And so kind of gauging those points of, do I want to get points for my itinerary? Do I want to try to stretch this trek out? Also managing my time and my crystals. I thought that was really good. So I really like those mechanics. Yeah, so those are my thoughts. I have some more, but I'll let you jump in. I've been talking for a few minutes.
I also really like the art. I think it's very like psychedelic looking, so I thought that was cool. I really love too on the cards, like as far as history, different events that have happened. Like I thought that was a really cool part of the game. And on the back of the card, how it has like information about it.
Yeah, it kind of talks about your experience.
Yeah. So it's not just like, oh, you know, you like Martin Luther King.
Right.
You were there during his speech, but it like you flip it on the back and it's like explaining like what happened. And there was like Sigmund Freud discovered this. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like getting
I got to have hot chocolate with the Mayans. Yeah. It was awesome.
So, I mean, at the end of the game, we were like going through like what we did on our time travels, which I thought was really cool. And the whole like thing of time traveling is like an awesome concept. I personally really loved trekking through or trekking the world.
Yeah.
The national parks, I was kind of like, it was okay. But I really liked that. So I was excited to play this, but it is very different, like you said. I did like the whole rondelle thing around the clock, which was interesting. And then the whole timeline itself, I thought was cool. Like, just the way that you're playing the game, like you're having to make that decision, like you said, do I want these like different like resources essentially to move through my itinerary and get points that way, or do I want to build my timeline as long as possible?
Right.
So you do have to, that is a tough decision that you have to make, but I think it was just so cool that you have this like timeline, and that's how you're collecting cards to build this timeline that you're going through history. So I think just the whole, I like the theme of it, but also the way that you're playing it, the actual mechanics of the game, because you're not just like building a hand of cards for, whatever. Like, you're actually collecting them to like tell a story.
Right. I did enjoy because at the end of the game, we would share our treks, and most of mine were like food related.
Yeah.
Like, I had hot chocolate with the Mayans. I had a bite of the very first sandwich with Sir Sandwich. I don't know what his name was. But,
yeah.
And then I was there for like the very first barbecue. I was like, apparently, all I cared about was food while I was traveling through
that's
history.
What you were doing.
Which was exciting.
Yeah.
Because in reality, that
accurate.
might have been what I've done.
Yeah, that's accurate for you. Well, and then it was like I got to train with like the samurais, and I don't know, it was just like so funny.
Well, one thing I think I appreciate that they included in the game was kind of the breakdown of what years were involved. So because there's a different deck for each day, and so being able to see what years, because you're like, oh, I don't know what's left in the deck to continue this trek on. What are possibly my options going to be?
Oh, that's another positive, I think, is having that like guide of what years are in each deck, because then you're like, okay, what's the, you have
an idea of what might pop up.
Yeah.
Or there's only like 4 more cards I could potentially get to continue this trek. Maybe I'll want to start a new trek. Right. So I did appreciate that. I think production was incredible, which Underdog Games always has, I feel like for me, has had a track of really good production. I might not be a huge fan of Trekking the World, but their inserts, their component quality, the cards are always really nice, and they didn't miss a beat here. If anything, they took it to another level, because now you have the plastic pieces for the experience tokens. You have the cool little stopwatch that's going around the rondelle. You have wooden bits. You have the neoprene mat for a relatively cheap game.
Yep.
I mean, you can get this that is essentially a deluxe version of any other game for like $30.
Yeah, I think I got it on Amazon for like $40, and it had like a coupon for like $3 off or something.
But I've seen it for sale at like $30. It's a great
And it also
deal.
came with the
Time Warp expansion.
Yeah, the Time Warp expansion. So that was pretty cool.
Right. Which just adds another layer of strategy. So I think I like that. So I think we can tell that we really do like this game. Did you have any negatives for the game?
I think as far as like the itinerary, like I don't know, they had some of them that I felt like were kind of impossible to do, but then you're getting like, a lot of points doing it. I guess it's kind of just based on like what's out there.
Yeah, there's some luck to the game for sure.
So, I think that was kind of like, we'd like randomize it and stuff, and sometimes it'd be like they'd be kind of similar to what I had before. So, I mean, but I'd say that's kind of just like the only thing I was kind of like, I wish they had like more variety as far as like itineraries, but it might have just been that I just kind of got similar ones.
Yeah, I think to take from that, I think there is some luck going into this game, which is a very slight negative for me, because you might be needing a very specific type of experience. You might need blue, you might need yellow, you might need red. And if you just don't have enough of those that come up, granted, each spot is going to give you a different color, so you're going to be able to get some, but maybe not as fast as you want. Or they might not line up with your timeline, which is fine. I think just tactically you have to be able to pivot and figure out what works best for my game plan. Okay, I'm not getting these tokens I need. Maybe I need to focus more on creating this really long trek, doing what I can, that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a little bit of luck, but I didn't really find it to be too hindering. No. The game plays pretty quickly. That it's not too big. I mean, it really is 30 to 60 minutes.
Right.
I think the only other thing is you can't necessarily plan too far ahead for like your next turn, especially if you play with more than 2 players, right? If you play with 4, you're like, ooh, please don't take that card. Please don't take that card. Chances are somebody's going to take that card. And so when it comes back around to your turn, it's going to look a lot different. You got to
kind of like, you can't really pre-plan.
Yeah, because like cards are going to be just flying off. So, I mean, so yeah, you can plan a little bit, but there's going to be people taking your stuff that you're going to want for sure. And like I said, there's going to be luck based on what comes out and what you can get. So, but that's a very slight negative, I would say. I don't think it affects my score that much. And so, speaking of scores, we can go ahead, unless you had any other negatives that you wanted to share.
No, actually, that was me just trying to like look for a negative, because I was like, I mean, really, it's hard to find a negative with this game. Right. That was really the only thing that was kind of like, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, it's horrible.
Right. So I think we can probably jump right into our final scores.
Yeah.
So do you want to give your score first? Because I'm sure it'll be the highest. Not that mine's going to be necessarily low, but I just know how you feel like it. I feel like it.
I'm probably going to give it an 8.
Oh, okay. An 8. All right.
Yeah.
What would have taken it to 9?
Or 10? If it had dogs in it.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is there dogs on some of the cards? Maybe. I don't
know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm actually coming in higher. I was going to give it an 8.7. I think it's a very good game. I don't know how long replayability will be. If it's something that in a year I'm going to keep coming back to, right? Yeah. I think I'll enjoy it. Especially now, like I love playing it. I'm always itching to play it right now because I like looking at my treks. I think that to me that's a fun experience.
It is,
and reading what I did, and that might not be everybody's cup of tea if you're not really into theme, but I like that. And I think
like
that's cool.
History too. I feel like if you like history in general, I mean, it'd be interesting.
So yeah, I have the only thing that really keeps it from being higher is possibly not being in 10, 20 plays down the road. Is it something that I'm going to want to keep coming back to?
Yeah.
And usually that's for a lot of games you're thinking, no, after I played it 20 times, I don't want to play it anymore, kind of thing, potentially.
There's a quote on the inside of the box.
Yes, I saw it too, yeah. History is not a burden on the memory, but an illumination on the soul, of the soul.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. So, anyway, that's going to be our thoughts on trekking through history. Let us know if you've had a chance to play this one. Is this something that you're interested in? Did you like the previous trekking games? If not, maybe check this one out. It's completely different. If you did, know that it's completely different before you get it. And check it out a little bit. But yeah, I think it's worth it. Production-wise, cost really low. I think it's worth checking out. So
it's a really great game.
Yeah, really great game. So please like, comment, subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you get a notification when we post a video. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Keep trekking.
Bye.